Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
We send kids to school to learn reading, math, and maybe how to stay awake in history class, if you were me back in my school days. But what if the students rolling into class were made of circuits and steel? In Hangzhou, a school just held a welcome ceremony for its newest pupils, humanoid robots. As machines get smarter, building them is only half the battle. They might need a bit of curriculum as well. Coming to you live from our studios in Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley. Thank you so much for being with us today. And for the show, I'm with Yushan and Ding Heng. First up, for most of us, school is where we learn to read and solve some problems and hopefully get along well with others. But what happens when the students aren't human at all? What if the next generation of freshmen arrive with metal arms and camera eyes and rechargeable batteries? Well, recently in Hangzhou, often regarded, by the way, as one of China's leading tech hubs, a school held an opening ceremony for a new class of humanoid robot students. As robots become more capable, simply building them may no longer be enough. It turns out they might need a little bit of an education as well. But what does it actually look like when you send robots to school? Can they be taught new skills? Do they raise their hands? Do they have recess and nap time? I want to know all of the answers to those questions. Ding Heng and Yushan, good afternoon to you both. This is a very cute story with very real applications.
Yeah, I can imagine like parents holding the humanoid robot's hands, leading them in, bidding goodbye, have a nice day, something like that. But it turns out it's just a very cute news happened very recently in late June that a diverse group of robots in all shapes and sizes, they went to school in Hangzhou in eastern China's Zhejiang province. And we're talking about the first batch of incoming robot students for China's very first vocational robot school that's open in the Yuhang district of Hangzhou. So that group of robots contains about 30 humanoid robots and quadruped machine dogs. They all lined up at the school's very first batch of students, and that's what the opening ceremony looked like.
Yeah, I saw a video of it yesterday. As a matter of fact, the quadruped dogs were kind of doing different types of balancing acts, and then the other robots were in different types of classroom scenarios, I suppose. And when I say classroom scenarios, as we will learn in a moment, these are very similar to the classroom scenarios that human beings would learn about as well. All right, so who are you said parents already, Yushan, so I'll use the same word. Who are the parents of these robots, Ding Heng? Is there any type of family structure here? I'm assuming it's very much business related.
Yeah, after doing some research on this subject, I realized that the parents of these so-called students, are actually representatives from some small and medium-sized robotics enterprises, as well as various government agencies and government departments. For example, one of the first robot students was sent to the school by its developer to improve its dancing performances.
To dance class.
Yeah, was a goal to make its movements smoother, more natural, look like more natural and more expressive, especially helping it's to advance from an elementary school, a so-called elementary school level to something higher level, to a high school level maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, lots of puns and jokes coming about school today. All right, so in that scenario, the robot had an elementary level of dancing ability. It goes to this robot school to advance its capabilities, and the teachers there will be the technicians, I suppose, that would help it advance. I think what's interesting is that even robots are being built for very specific tasks now. Just like people, I suppose, they're starting to specialize. The easiest one for me to think of is the robot coffee shop machine, because that's the one I saw and used first. So one robot, learning how to dance in this particular example, one might be training for factory work, one might be training for elderly care. And I'm wondering if the future would be that way, where robots are specialized instead of a robot with a range of different abilities and skills, where we're finding robots that are very good at one specific thing.
Exactly. And that's a big shift in how robotics is evolving these days. So instead of trying to build one robot that's good at everything, the developers and companies nowadays, they're finding it's far more practical, as a matter of fact, to train robots for specific jobs. And it's also more friendly to the market as well, given that there are so many companies investing themselves onto the humanoid robots, or just simply robots training and innovation these days. So it's much like how humans specialize. It's like students majoring in different majors, and there are those that's working in specific very high-tech ones, and there are those in the cultural and humanities ones. Same as robots. Here, a robot designed to care for older adults need very different skills from one working on a factory floor, for example, or performing on stage. So by focusing on a particular role, robots can become more capable and safer and more reliable in our real-world scenarios too.
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Comparing to us humans, where we also specialize.
Yes, exactly. I also agree that the future is likely to feature a diverse robotics ecosystem regarding specialized robots rather than a single, all-purpose household machine. For example, I mean the idea of a single humanoid machine or a humanoid maid that takes care of the cooking, cleaning, all these household items or laundry, all in one remains popular, remains relevant. But I guess the realities of engineering, economics, and artificial intelligence really favor robotics specialization. I mean, training artificial intelligence to master a single domain is much more, is much faster and more reliable than teaching it to handle multiple, tasks.
But the ones that are in the news the most these days, I feel, and we're digressing a little bit, we'll get back on topic in just a sec, but I feel like the ones that are getting the most attention these days are the multitasking ones, the all-purpose robots.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The ones that can cook an egg and fold your laundry and load a washing machine and things like that. Those are the ones that get all the clicks on social media because it's still very novel to us. But in terms of practicality, I think researchers have figured out, how to make a robot do one thing extremely, extremely, extremely well, but the multitasking robots are still back in the lab, still kind of trying to master multiple skills at the same time.
Yeah, and let's be honest, humanoid robots, they've been around for years. And previously, there's been similar facilities emerged in other major Chinese cities like Beijing or Shanghai or Shenzhen under the title of Data Training Center. But nowadays, they're being rebranded, if I may call it, as schools for a very refined and interesting reason, that is to train them and make them more intelligent, make them grow a brain.
Well, let's talk about it. What exactly are they learning at robot school?
Well, cognition for the first, and also object recognition, human-machine communication, emotional companionship, motor skills, of course, and locomotion. So the robot students, they are assigned to specialized tracks on majors based on their intended workplace duties. Because we mentioned that these first batch of the students, they come from various backgrounds and industries of their own. Some are here to receive the training from technical tracks, like those focuses on industrial tasks such as chip assembly, precise chemical lab operations, stuff like that. And also there are those meant to become medical carers in the future.
Elderly care.
Yeah, like training them for elderly care and medical assistance. And then there are those, the performers, the art tracks, the trainers, like teachers teaching robotics skills for the cultural and entertainment sectors, like waving, saying hi to visitors of a tourism spot.
Or like dancing, like we just learned about that robot who was
on Spring Festival Gala.
Yeah, going to improve its dancing skills. All right, so then in order to cultivate these robots, how do they go about it then?
Well, it is reported that the training follows if you are a Chinese student growing up in China's education system, you might be very familiar with this term, 德智体美劳. Basically, the 5 virtuals.
I have never heard 德智体美劳 before.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Virtual wisdom, physics, strength, art, and labor, or doing some labor work, I guess. This is that's the exact framework used in China's education system, especially the elementary school curriculum.
Okay, so that's to ensure that the young boy or girl grows up into a well-rounded individual.
Exactly,
I suppose.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's the same concept for the robots?
Yeah. For example, when we talk about the virtual aspect, robots are supposed to learn to abide by, human ethical norms, those laws, regulations. So in order to incorporate those standardized safety mechanism into their daily operation. Wisdom, it's pretty easy to understand. It's about training them to perceive human emotional cues. For example, for a companionship related robots, it is supposed to respond to learn how to respond to negative moods with comforting remarks or making some jokes or engaging in a sort of multi-language communication and open-ended Q&A. And here, multi-language, I guess, it's if it is a robot for the Chinese market, it is supposed to be multi-dialect, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, well yeah. I mean, that sounds like you're making a joke, but that you're exactly right, because it would have to understand different dialects so it could communicate. One robot could communicate with everyone all around the country.
Yeah, and on top of that integrated framework, each robot also receives a tailored training program that's based on its own individual hardware condition and also the enrollment assessment too. So the best part of that is the fact that the education doesn't stop at graduation, quote unquote graduation. The school tracks how robots perform in real work scenarios to revise and update their training programs afterwards or for the next batch of students maybe. So robots that pass their final assessments earn a special skill level certificate and a unique digital ID for full traceability in their workplace. So, well, that also means if they perform malbehavior in the workplace, you know where they were trained and you know where they graduate from.
When it comes to, I'll answer this question now. I was joking before when I said, do they raise their hands to answer questions or things like that? No, they do not. It doesn't look, if you're still wondering, like, what does this actually look like? It doesn't look like your traditional classroom with desks and chairs or anything like that. It very much looks like a large training center. The video that I watched, it almost looked like an airport hangar, like a wide open warehouse type of space. And then there were different sections of the wide open space that were dedicated to different types of learning. And within that space, open space as well, they have these standardized real scene training venues. And they design them to mimic real workplaces. So, the one you were talking about before, Yushan, the Beijing training base, that's huge as well. That has a 5,000 square meter facility, and that has real life replicas of 6 major areas. They have household kitchens, they have supermarkets, they have offices, industrial factories, and elderly care wards. So the idea is to have a huge space, divide that big open space into different real life designs, and then have the robots in there training that way. So it's kind of hands-on real life practical training.
Yeah, and it's done through various different stages and process as well. That's in terms of the way they learn. And first of all, it's through data collection and scenario practice. And that's why mimicking actual workplace matters so well in this case scenario. So that will involve remote operation, where human actually guide their movements via headsets and specialized gloves to collect trajectories and movement data, which is then used to train the robot's brain. So by practicing, quote unquote practice, I'm still getting used to the fact that they're being called students, they're practicing.
Yeah.
And they are actually, quote unquote, memorizing and enhancing their own skill in this skill set. And also there's the human machine communication that's functioning a lot here too.
They don't raise their hand and answer questions,
No.
but there is communication with their trainer, though.
Yep, that's rather than traditional classroom participation, they kind of demonstrate their progress through that kind of communication between human and machine, and also that's something called multi-language Q&A session. So it's also an interaction style, I suppose, that can help these students to learn how to handle random and open-ended question. As a matter of fact.
Okay, that's what they're doing. That's how it's being done. But we didn't talk about this yet. Why is this necessary, Ding Heng? Why do they have to go to school at all?
I guess they need to go to school, primarily because there is this urgent need to bridge this gap between having a functional body, namely a hardware, and a capable brain, namely a software that can really handle all those kinds of real-world scenarios and tasks and missions.
But can't the companies do this on their own?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm also thinking about this, but it becomes quite evident that many companies have, although they have mastered those capabilities to manufacture sophisticated robot hardware, they, in the meantime, are often struggling to develop the intelligent control system that are somehow tailored to actual application scenarios. So that's why we need those so-called school education, because the ultimate goal is to make robots smart and sensible, rather than just capable of movement. So we need a school, we need the parents. It's combination of home parenting and school education.
Yeah, and the picture is kind of becoming clearer to me now, because I think we're talking about robots that are going to interact with humans, or at least be in the geographical proximity of humans in real life scenarios. I'm going back to that coffee shop robot barista that I met. There wouldn't necessarily, I don't think, be any specific training necessary for a robot like that, because it's in an enclosed place. There's no interaction with human beings whatsoever. You put your money in, and then the robot moves in a pre-programmed way to grab the cup and put it under the water place, and then put it under where the beans go. I don't see any reason for any type of interaction here. It sounds like this school is bridging perhaps an application gap. Yep, the companies can design the hardware. That isn't an issue at all. But how to get these robots to learn to interact in a real-world scenario, that's what's being learned here.
Yeah, here's what I think, and I kind of agree with you too, Steve. And Ding Heng, you mentioned 德智体美劳, the virtue side, the wisdom side, the physique side, and the art and labor side of cultivating a human being. And that's what these schools matter so much, because on the physique, on the motor skills side, we've already had these companies working on it for years. And it's pretty good. We've seen them doing backflips and martial art on stage of the most significant stage in China, the Spring Festival Gala. So that's without a question that these companies are doing a great job. But what make these schools so important and what make them stand out is on the fact that they are not treating these robots as products. They're treating them as R&D projects and R&D partners in some cases. So that would require via the training, how these products can eventually scale up and enter the market. So one thing that they kind of give or grant to these products that we call humanoid robots these days are the standardization and certification of the products, which is another important aspect that is
It's like their gold star.
Yeah, like a stamp.
That kids get in school.
Yeah, a stamp of qualification before releasing your kid back to the society.
Yep. Releasing back to society.
You need to obtain.
They're not getting out of prison. They're going to school.
Yeah.
Not that it's meant
You need
to
a
be like
degree
that.
to hunt for a job.
Yeah. No,
better pet.
Yeah, but this is a type of verification,
Right.
I suppose, that they are capable of doing. They are certified that they can do what they are supposed to do.
Yep, the
Yeah.
graduates, they will receive what I mentioned earlier, that ID, the digital ID, and also special skill level certificate. And that's like a recognizable kind of award or an accomplishment for them to be able to become part of our daily life in the future.
It's their diploma. so
And
to
then
speak.
on the ethical and legal side of things, it's also equally important that the robot products, now that we're coming back to the essence of what they are, they also need to be equipped with what's provided at the school, the trainings. So as robots begin to interact more closely with humans, especially when it comes to the vulnerable groups of humans, the kids, the elders, they must learn to navigate human social structures. So this curriculum would include modules on how robots should abide by human ethical norms, the laws, the regulations, and eventually live like one of us.
Yeah, which is the biggest challenge for developers, is how do you do that? Because putting a group of robots on a stage at the Spring Festival Gala, Ding Heng, what do you think? You can disagree with me if you like.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, putting them on stage at a Spring Festival Gala and programming them to do a dance, like a fan dance, or programming them to do some wushu martial arts performances is one thing. And it creates awe in the audience. The audience is like, wow, my gosh, that's amazing. But I'm having fun watching how society is reacting now. And here's my question. Are we past that kind of ooh, wow moment? Like, has that worn off? And now as a society, we're more curious about how can these things actually really help us in daily life?
Oh, yeah. I think that's exactly a big pursuit or a very general pursuit of our human society in general. I mean, those viral videos or Spring Festival Gala, high-profile events.
They're amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Backflipping, performing martial arts on the parts of those humanoid robots. But I think in the meantime, there is also a more low-profile, quieter class of specialized automation robots. They have already integrated into our daily workflows. So my personal take or my personal view on this is that domestic robots, for example, have really moved past this so-called novelty phase to handle those tedious houseworks and in some of the basic tasks like floor maintenance or lawn care, mowed lawn. We're seeing deployment of some really reliable robots, to say the least.
And if we're to just quickly look at the market size, it also says a lot of things. Because when something is niche, when something is really out there in the market for people to wow at, their price can be cheap.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, for consumer-grade robots, like for entertainment and performance-oriented humanoid robots, the prices are actually dropping a little bit. So one humanoid robot on JD.com, for example, is priced at as low as 9,000 yuan. That's just a little over $1,300. And yeah, that's speaking on a lot of other brands too. And the message here, as far as I can see, is quite clear. That's we've already have a very mature supply chain and standardized design that allow for mass production. And yeah, there are already existing molding parts too, and that's already so. Yeah, that's where we've come from. And the next step is for them to do more, to act more.
Yeah, but I think it might be the final step, but it's also the hardest step. And I think we can draw a comparison to other tech, right? When smartphones came out, we were blown away. And because we had never seen anything like that before. But the difference is it was very easy to integrate smartphones into our everyday lives because we are interacting with the phone. The phone is not interacting with us. We choose when to pick it up. We choose when to put it down. And when we put it down, it stays there until we pick it up again. We are asking these robots to move around our very unpredictable environment, right? Especially when we're talking about our homes. So we put shoes on the floor, sometimes in the middle of the floor, and we forget to move them. Or a dog might suddenly run in the way. Or something might get dropped and broken on the ground. What about broken glass? Doesn't a robot know how to deal with that type of thing when there's a small child in the vicinity? Do you see what I mean? So I don't think it's fair to draw a compare. I was trying to think, is there any other type of tech that we can compare this to? And I feel like this is just such a unique thing, a unique challenge that it feels like we're not necessarily that close. But what do the experts say, though? How close are we to actually living in our house everyday robot society?
Roughly another 3 to 5 years, according to some industry
After my
experts.
big speech, 36 months.
Not months, 3 to 5 years. Yeah, but at this point, like you said earlier, Steve, there are still quite a bit of challenges that we kind of need to address before it happens. And just not too long ago on Roundtable, we talked about hiring human beings to do chores, wearing special motion capture devices, just so that their movement data can be recorded and in turn fed to AI for training. I think that's one strong indicator of just how the ecosystem is getting ready for humanoid robots to actually enter human environment, like household environments. Because, AI is for one thing, but in the future, I don't believe there will be one single humanoid robot that doesn't have AI integrated as part of its chip. So again, it's something that the whole industry, the different sectors are getting ready for. But yet, when we look at specific details, just like high hardware costs, we mentioned how the prices have dropped. But it doesn't change the fact that in order for it to be acting and even thinking more like human, the price for R&D for just kind of switching the pre-programmed robots to something much smarter than that, we still have a long way to go, and we still have a lot of money to pay on that sense. So 3 to 5 years is just an estimation.
Yeah.
It could be longer.
And also, 9,000 might be cheaper than what it was before, but 9,000 is not something every person can pull out of their pocket and say, I think I'll go to the store and pick up a humanoid robot today. That's not going to happen, right? So it's going to have to come down a lot, and that might take a long time because it's so expensive to research and to develop.